Just some random YouTuber talking about Metroid. Hello, my friends, and happy October. Today, I just wanted to talk about why I love the Metroid series so gosh darn much. What is it about Nintendo's action-adventure shooter space epic that I just cannot get enough of? Well, there are a lot of reasons for that, but I just wanted to break down a few of the biggest ones in this video. In preparation for Metroid Dread, here's my tribute to one of my all-time favorite video game franchises. As you all know, along with Zelda, Metroid is one of my two favorite video game franchises of all time. And you've heard me gush plenty about Zelda, so I'm just gonna be taking a new page, or what do you call it? Switching gears, as the kids say, and talking about, is that what the kids say? But anyway, talking about some good old Metroid. So, I love Metroid for so many reasons. The first reason why I love Metroid so much, Samus. Samus is just such an awesome, cool character. But apart from just being an awesome character and being like the first, really hardcore badass female protagonist in video games, preceding Lara Croft by more than a decade, and also, actually having a really good character arc, Samus is just such a smooth, slick character to play as. Honestly, just the feel of controlling Samus is just so fun. Controlling Samus just always feels so slick, so punchy, so perfect. I don't think there's a single video game action character that controls and feels as good to play as Samus. Like, every jump, every shot, every missile, every screw attack, every morph ball transformation, everything. If you could just see in the footage Samus jumping, it even looks slick. It looks good. And Samus just plays so well. And honestly, I don't think there's any other character, with the exception of a certain Mustachio Plumber, who controls better, period, than Samus Aran. Samus Aran just controls so, phenomenally well. You really feel so immersed in the game because of how perfectly punchy, how tight Samus is as a character control. She feels so good to control as a character. It is just absolutely crazy good. And the second, and I think most important reason why I love Metroid, and why I think I love the Metroidvania genre, is just sort of the pure, simple game design and world design. What I love so much about the Metroid franchise, by and large, is just how tight, how compact, but yet at the same time how dense, how massive the world is. If you honestly look at the size of the worlds of maps of most Metroid games, they're not that big. These aren't open world games really in the traditional sense. They're more like going down many tight corridors, fighting certain enemies, occasionally solving puzzles, and sort of progressing to the next area. And yet, it all feels like one connected world because of how tightly designed the worlds are of these games and how compact they are. They feel so connected, so purely yes, this is one connected world. Even though there's always such a great variety of areas in Metroid games, from the very jungly areas of Brinstar to the fiery places of Norfair, the sunken underwater cities of Meridia. Many of the Metroid games also have snow-themed areas, and yet everything's going from one section of the game to the other always feels so natural, so slick. Kind of going off of how Samus controls herself, it all feels so connected. You never feel you're in a completely different place. It all feels like part of the same world and part of the same dungeon scenario, and it just feels so just good to move from place to place. Now, the Metroid franchise has often been criticized for its backtracking, and while I understand this complaint to some extent, particularly if you're a completionist, I honestly feel like it's sort of backtracking in name only. You'll be going back to many areas you've already visited, but you're always discovering something new in that area. You'll be discovering a new path to a new place. So, like, what some call backtracking, I just call progression, because you're still moving forward. You're finding new stuff. And, the other thing I like about that is it allows you to go back towards those areas, and it really makes them, along with the game's compact size, as I mentioned earlier, it just makes the whole world feel so used. Like, there's no wasted space whatsoever. Every area has its time to shine in the sun because of how compact it is, and because of this quote-unquote backtracking, which, as I said, almost always leads to a new area or a new power-up. And I just feel like that really makes the sense of progression feel so much more natural, and makes the world feel so much more connected and alive. And going along with that, there's a real sense of progression. Like, Metroid is all about getting items and getting stronger as you go along. Like, as you explore the world, you'll see many places that you can't get to right off the bat, but it'll sort of tease you, sort of like, holding out a piece of candy in front of, a child on Halloween night. Samus Aran can see places like, oh, if only I had this certain beam that will allow me to grapple, I could reach that place. Or if only I had these high jump boots, I could reach that place. Or if only I had this certain kind of missile, by golly, I could reach that place. But you can't reach it just yet. You have to do more exploring. Almost always have to fight a really epic boss in order to get these sort of upgrades. And again, it's just another one of those things that I think really makes playing Metroid just such a cool experience. Like, you start out, strong enough, don't get me wrong, but still very limited, but you become more and more powerful as you go along, and it really makes you feel good. Like, that sense of yes, now I got this weapon, now that one enemy that gave me so much trouble I can now take down in just a few hits, or now I can go to this one place. And just the way the weapon stacking works by and large, it's just really, it's so sequential and just so bit by bit that, the minute-to-minute gameplay just is so eternally satisfying. Being able to get all these weapons and use them to progress further through the game, find new areas, defeat stronger enemies, defeat weaker enemies quicker. And again, this also lends to why I think Metroid is so popular for speedrunners and backtrackers, is that, honestly, the first time playing a Metroid game is learning the mechanics of the game itself. And that's why I feel like after you've beaten the game one time, you get the hang of the game, then you can go back and beat the game faster, beat your best time. And the game rewards you for, doing this, because depending on, how fast it takes you to beat the game, you're always given, a slightly better ending, you get a little bit more, get to see a little bit more of, yeah. Avid Metroid fans know what I'm talking about. And, it's just a good feeling, because it makes replaying the game so much more fun every single time, because now that you've learned the game, you understand the base mechanics after your first run through. Now you can really master the game. You can you can find different shortcuts. You can learn how to beat bosses easier. And speaking of bosses, Metroid bosses are just some of, if not the best selection, the best selection of bosses in video game history. No other boss reaches the likes of Ridley, of Kraid, of Mother Brain. Even looking at many of the bosses in the Metroid Prime games, bosses like Thardus, this giant rock monster that you fight, or Meta Ridley, going into Metroid Prime 2 and 3, like Dark Samus, or Quadroxus, this giant robot. This is no comparison with other action games and other space adventure shooter games, as it were, as there is Metroid bosses. They're just the best, just pure and simple. They are so fun to fight. And while I do think that overall the 2D Metroids do a better job balancing out the boss's length and difficulty, they're all really solid. However, I do have to say that Super Metroid probably has the best selection of bosses of any Metroid game, and arguably of any just, action adventure game period. They're the perfect mix of short and sweet. Like it's kill or be killed in that scenario. That's what I love so much about it. Like you always feel like everything is like against you, and yet at the same time there's this serenity that permeates the game. Moving over specifically to the Prime games, that's one of the areas where I really do think the Prime games absolutely excel. I'm a man that just loves to think, that loves to be reflective. What I love so much specifically about the Metroid Prime trilogy, which is technically a side series, but what I think they do so well is having this perfect mix of these high intense action sequences, like you'll have some intense boss fights, and then there's just like these moments right afterwards of just pure, sort of serenity, of, I almost want to say melancholy, but of reflection. Like, I can just spend that time as I'm exploring, using my new power-ups, just looking around the world, taking in everything there is to see, maybe grabbing a few extra missiles or energy tanks as I go along, just thinking, just thinking about anything and nothing, I could be thinking about the stock market. I could be thinking about, why I chose to go see The Rise of Skywalker on Christmas, which totally ruined that Christmas for me. As a movie I totally don't even like to acknowledge the existence of, by and large. I could be thinking about whether I want to get Chinese food or a Subway sandwich for lunch. Any number of things. And I just love that about the Metroid series, is how perfectly it blends action with serenity. Like you're always experiencing these alien planets that obviously are like fragments of like a once great civilization of, space bird people known as the Chozo, and they're all more or less wiped out. But as you play through the games, there's just the environmental storytelling that permeates the worlds. It's just so grand. Like, you really get these small fragments of, like, the history of that planet, and you really start to put things together, and that just adds to the sense of reflection that these games have. Just the atmospheric sense of these games. So obviously I love Metroid for so many reasons. Another thing, of course, I have to say is the music is phenomenal. Kenji Yamamoto has never composed a bad score for a Metroid game. Metroid games just have some of the most, just best music, ever. Like, honestly, just listening to some of the orchestrated tracks for some of these Metroid tunes, it literally brings a tear to my eye. I could go on and on about all the things I love about Metroid, but just to bring it all back to full circle, it's just, again, the Metroid games are like the perfect mix of like action and exploration. Like, they're shooters, but they're not shooters in like the traditional sense. They're like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of like action in Metroid games, but at the same time, it's about, slowly but surely exploring and uncovering the world, learning new paths, finding new abilities, finding new areas, sometimes new areas within old areas, and just having this sense of just bit by bit progression. You'll be like, this is pretty cool, I got this new item, I can do this one thing, but along with that one thing, I can also do this other thing. It's like oftentimes with Metroid games, you feel like you've only unlocked one option, but you'll actually, every supposedly small incremental, progress you make for the game actually pays out in spades, usually from the beginning. It's like, and those that really understand the game design, they can be like, oh, I can do this, but I can also do this. Look how I can, like, figure out this one little secret ability with this thing. And then that just builds on itself as you get more and more power-ups throughout the rest of the game. It's like, okay, now I have, bombs plus a morph ball. Or, now I have the grapple beam plus the screw attack. Now I have, the dash, like, the dash running ability paired, with the being able to jump really high. Like, how can I use this to its full potential? And it's just that being able to, like, have that just creativity as a gamer is just so cool. Honestly, it's just cool. And, like, at the end of the day, there's just really the games I remember most, like, are just the games that give me that wow, like, this is so cool factor. And that's again, another reason why I love Metroid so much. And like I said, objectively speaking, you look at the map size for most of these Metroid games, especially the 2D side-scroller ones, they're not that big, but they feel big. Design-wise, they're so compact, they're so tightly designed, but the worlds feel huge, they feel massive. And the fact that they can, be relatively small in size but still feel so big, that is the definition of a good game design, is making you feel a certain way. Even if it's not literally that, the fact that you feel that anyway is just phenomenal game design. And that is something that no other franchise, including other games in the Metroid genre or Metroidvania genre, quite get. There's a lot of imitators out there, some of which are very, very good, solid games. But I'm sorry, just nobody does it better than Metroid in that regards. And that is why Metroid is my second favorite video game franchise of all time, and why I will always love these games so very much. Metroid, it's just damn near the best. It's just the coolest. Samus is she's just the coolest character ever, honestly. Yeah, Samus is cool, Samus plays well, Metroid's cool. Metroids themselves are not so cool, because if you shoot them with the ice beam, they go down pretty easily. But yeah, Metroid, good stuff. Anyway, I cannot wait for Metroid Dread to come out in a couple days, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Tell me what you think of the comments below, and I will see you all on the other side. Peace out, my friends. Hey, thank you so much for watching my latest video. This has been one I've been wanting to make for quite some time, and I'm so happy I finally got it out before Metroid Dread comes out. I hope you enjoy this video. If you like this content, please check out my other videos. I hope you subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.